Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're a pool owner, there is absolutely nothing more frustrating than testing your water, adding what feels like a perfectly good dose of chlorine, and then coming back a day later only to find it completely gone. Poof. Vanished. Today, we're focusing squarely on solving high chlorine demand, specifically in San Diego pools. Our goal right now is to give you clear, specific, totally fluff-free troubleshooting techniques for that disappearing sanitizer. We're going to figure out exactly why your pool is eating up all your chlorine, and more importantly, how to fix it for good. Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the vanishing chlorine symptom. Then we'll move into patterns of chlorine loss and look at the San Diego factor. After that, we'll run through some step-by-step troubleshooting, and finally, wrap up with fixing the root cause. Section 1. The vanishing chlorine symptom. Let's dive right in and reframe how we actually think about this incredibly common, very annoying headache. Why does my pool keep eating chlorine? It is literally the #1 question people ask when they're facing this issue. But here's the thing you absolutely need to know right out of the gate. High chlorine demand is a symptom. It's not a single disease. Your pool isn't just broken. According to the CDC's latest home pool guidance, your free chlorine is reacting to a massive combination of introduced materials. We're talking sweat, dirt, organic swimmer waste, strong sunlight, and even those droplet-making jets you might have running. When your chlorine disappears quickly, it just means active contamination, debris, or environmental factors are consuming the sanitizer way faster than you are replacing it. It's really just a symptom of overlapping factors. To actually diagnose this symptom, we need a solid baseline. Back in May 2024, the CDC updated their guidance on this exact thing. They state that your pool needs an absolute minimum of 1 part per million, or ppm, of free chlorine if you are not using cyanuric acid, which you probably know as CYA or stabilizer. But if you are using CYA or any stabilized chlorine like dichlor or trichlor, that minimum requirement doubles. You need at least 2 ppm. Now remember, these numbers are just a testing baseline. They are not a diagnosis. A low reading only tells you the chlorine is gone. It's your job to figure out where it went. Section 2. Patterns of chlorine loss. We've got the symptom, so now we need to identify the usual suspects behind this rapid chemical drain. Things get super interesting when we map visual symptoms directly to chemical realities. Think about it. If you notice a massive drop in chlorine right after a weekend pool party, well, that's the heavy swimming pattern. Sweat and dirt are giving your chlorine a huge, heavy workload. On the flip side, if you see a drop after heavy yard work or a windstorm, that's dust and organic debris. Decaying material keeps your sanitizer totally occupied. And you really have to watch out for high pH. If your pH rises above 7.8, you might test your water and actually see chlorine present, but it's sluggish. It's performing terribly. Also, keep an eye out for CYA mismatch slowing your chlorine down or active algae draining it entirely as it feeds on phosphates. This right here is exactly why throwing around a lazy term like chlorine lock isn't helpful at all. You have to look at these specific patterns to know what is actually draining your sanitizer. Section 3. The San Diego factor. Geography always matters when it comes to pool chemistry, so let's look at how our local environment specifically impacts these demand patterns. Local conditions absolutely dictate your fix. Here in San Diego, we essentially have a year-round swim season. There is no true off-season where neglected chemistry is just going to magically reset itself. Take an inland pool in El Cajon, for example. It's hot, it gets heavy use, and it faces massive swimmer demand all summer long. Now compare that to a coastal pool up in Encinitas, tucked beneath those beautiful mature trees. That Encinitas pool is battling organic leaf debris constantly. Add in our endless, chaotic battle against the Santa Ana winds blowing fine dirt across the entire county, and you've got yourself some serious overlapping demand factors. Your pool-specific microenvironment dictates where your chlorine is going. Section 4. Step-by-step troubleshooting. The crucial point here is knowing how to investigate your specific backyard. Let's walk through an actionable diagnostic flow you can literally use this weekend. Okay, here is your 5-step plan of attack. Step 1. Please ditch the cheap test strips. Establish a reliable starting baseline using a proper liquid DPD drop kit for real accuracy. Step 2. Play detective. Compare your readings during a quiet, unused period versus a busy, swimmable afternoon. A sharp drop after swimming points straight to bather load, but a steady drop while the pool sits unused, that points to sunlight, debris, or algae. Step 3. Review your pH and your CYA stabilizer together because context is everything. Step 4. Physically inspect your water and the surrounding yard for leaves, soil, or pollen. And step 5, listen, this is the most important one. Retest your water after correcting what you think is the likely cause. Change just one variable at a time so you actually know what solved the problem. Section 5, fixing the root cause. Now that we've run our diagnostics and identified our culprit, let's talk about the cure and how to implement a durable, lasting fix. The absolute worst thing you can do for a high chlorine demand pool is to just close your eyes and blindly dump more chlorine into it, crossing your fingers for a miracle. You have to take targeted action. Start with physical contamination first. Skim the leaves, empty the baskets, clean the filters. Your chlorine should not be forced to carry the burden of fighting leaves that a simple net could have removed. Next, match your testing to your pool's actual use, not just the calendar. Test more often on heavy use days. Correct your pH context immediately. And definitely review your stabilizer history. If you've been using stabilized pucks for years, your CYA might be so insanely high that it's crippling your chlorine's ability to even work. And finally, don't get distracted by phosphates. Treat them only as an algae support issue, not as a chemical that directly eats your chlorine. I want to pause right here and zero in on this specific number, 7.8. This is your absolute upper limit for pH according to the CDC. Why is this so crucial? Because the moment your water's pH rises above 7.8, the chlorine you do have present in the water begins to kill germs much, much more slowly. You could have a totally perfect 3 ppm of free chlorine, but if your pH is sitting at an 8.2, that chlorine is incredibly sluggish. The context of your water chemistry dictates how effective your sanitizer actually is. Ultimately, every single thing we've talked about today comes down to this core philosophy. Fix the cause instead of chasing the reading. If you just add more chemical product to hit an arbitrary number on a test kit, you are only hiding the pattern for a few days. The chlorine will vanish again. You have to remove the physical demand or correct the unbalanced chemistry that is slowing your chlorine down. Repeating your tests after each individual correction is literally the only way to know you've actually cured the disease rather than just masking a symptom. So I'll leave you with this to think about. Is it time to totally rethink how you test your water? If you've been testing purely on a rigid weekly schedule, it might be time to shift to testing based on actual usage and weather events. Test before and after that big pool party. Test after those notorious Santa Ana winds blow through and dump a literal sandbox into your backyard. By understanding the overlapping demands specific to your San Diego home, you can stop wasting your hard-earned money on vanishing chemicals. And of course, if that demand pattern completely persists no matter what you do, it might be time to reach out to a local pro who can trace the chemistry for you. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and here is to clear, perfectly balanced water.